Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Graslin and today we are going to be talking about the Aries-Libra opposition, which basically has to deal with individuality, liberty, and freedom. As Aries represents the individual qualities in us, and then Libra is the liberty. It's this individual rights for everybody kind of idea, because L-I-B, Libra and then liberty, they both have the same root word, and then if you put these together you get freedom for everybody, right? This is what the opposition creates. When this opposition is in harmony, you have freedom. When it's in disharmony, you have tyranny and you have authoritarian, like totalitarian control. So that's how I think of this Aries-Libra opposition. Also, this theme or this Aries-Libra opposition can also apply to you if you have a Venus-Mars aspect, right? Because Venus rules over Libra and Mars rules over Aries. If you have Venus in Aries, so, Venus represents your love and your ability to harmonize. And if it's in Aries, there's this love of the Aryan energy. And then if you have Venus in the first house, it's kind of the same way. It's love of the self, love of expressing yourself. And then if you have Mars in Libra, there's an action for Libran pursuits. So you take action to establish harmony. And then it's the same if you have Mars in the 7th house. You take action to establish relationships, or you create conflict in relationship. It can also apply if you have Libra in the 1st house, which is the same thing as having a Libra ascendant or Libra rising, or having Aries in the 7th house, which is the same as having an Aries descendant, which is the same thing as having a Libra rising. So what does it mean to have an opposition between Aries and Libra? Basically, the first dynamic that you need to understand between Aries and Libra is that Aries represents the self and Libra represents other people. This is very, very important. So the Aryan energy is very selfish. It's very focused on expressing the self. If you think about it, Aries begins it's the first sign of the zodiac. So, and the previous sign of Aries was Pisces, and Pisces, it represents the womb. It represents that cold, kind of dark, but connected kind of feeling, because when you're a fetus, when you're a baby inside of a mother, you are technically connected to the mother. It's dark. You're still kind of in this universal consciousness, which is Pisces, this kind of spiritual, connected kind of stuff, right? So you're still in the womb. And then Aries, which is the next sign, you pop out, you're born, and then you're an individual, you are your own person, right? So you establish a sense of self, right? You are your own entity. And then when you move into Libra, so Libra represents, so it's the second half of the zodiac. And if you notice, the first half of the zodiac, so Aries through Virgo, so Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, those signs all are kind of focused on the self. Even though Aries is the most selfish, basically all these signs kind of have to do with yourself, so Taurus is like what I have, and Gemini is what I think, and then when you hit to Libra, suddenly you focus on other people. It's not about you, it's not about your life, it's not about what you think, it's about other people, right? And then so it moves, so Scorpio is about how does other people feel, and then it's Sagittarius, what do other people think, and then it's this moving into this other. So there's the self and there's the other. So how does this play in an opposition? Well, basically there's a struggle between the self and other people. So sometimes you can be too selfish and too focused on yourself, but at the same time you can be too passive and too selfless, and you don't stand up for yourself the way you need to. And to harmonize this, to balance this, you need to teach the Libra side of you to be more selfish, to care about, to basically take care of yourself first, right? Really take care of yourself and then help other people. Because when you take care of yourself, when you take care of yourself the best, right? Once you're under control, then it's a lot easier to help other people, right? But at the same time, if you just focus on yourself and you don't help others, it actually doesn't benefit you. It's kind of ironic because when you think about it, if you really want to serve your selfish interest, if you really want to help yourself, you kind of have to help other people. Say someone has something that you want, right? You have to give that person something that they want so that they give you what you want, you know. And this is why the Libra has to do with marriage, because, you know, and why marriage is good for both people in the end, because it serves both people, it helps both people, to help both individuals. If it doesn't help both individuals, then it's just selfless and it's just not good. Hate to get political here, but it's like capitalism. You know, and capitalism is essentially free voluntary trade, right? I'll give you something if you give me something back. If you don't have something that I want, then I won't give you anything. So every time an interaction takes place, it serves both people, right? You can focus on yourself and you can do stuff for yourself, but if you add the Libra, you can help yourself and other people by helping yourself. That's what this balance, this harmony creates. Next is this action versus thinking. So if you look, Aries is cardinal fire, Libra is cardinal air. So they're both very similar in the sense that they're both initiating something, except the difference is that Aries is initiation of action, initiation of fire, and then Libra is initiation of air. So Aries is always acting, you know, do this, do that, and then Libra is always thinking, right? So it's like, what do I do? Do I do something or do I think about it? And so with this opposition, it's basically thinking and then acting. It's making sure that you don't take actions that are too brash or too risky, but at the same time, it's making sure that you take just enough action so you're not just sitting and thinking about everything all the time. Because the problem is with Libra is that they just sit and think. And they just think and they don't make a decision, and they can't make a decision, and they're too indecisive. And then Aries is too decisive, and they often make bad decisions because they don't stop to think about something. So the opposition wants you to stop and think and then make a rational action. Next is passions and desires versus law and reason. So if you've heard the quote by Aristotle, law is reason free from passion, right? Aries is that raw emotion, it's the passions, it's the desires, and it kind of goes back to the sense of self. What makes a person a person? What makes a person an entity? The fact that they have likes, they have dislikes, they have characteristics, they have emotions, they have feelings, they have things that make them them, right? So you're kind of this subjective person, right? When you look at the world, you see it subjectively, just like everybody else sees the world in their own vision, their own way, in their own subjective sense. But Libra is kind of this very selfless, this very logical, rational, stoic sign, because if Aries is pure raw emotion, Libra is pure rationality and reason, right? And this is why Aries represents kind of humanity, because we're all humans, we're all desires, we're all kind of influenced by our biology and our emotions, and we have no control over our lives. We're just crazy individual Aries cave people. And then Libra is kind of like that groundedness, well, it's not grounded because it's air, but you know, Saturn does good in Libra. Anyway, off the point, but basically Libra is that rationality. It's that being able to take yourself out of that human selfish form and to kind of move into that more selfless, very enlightened, very intelligent kind of thing. And that's why Libra represents the law and why it's the government, because and that's why there is no passions in law, because if you need, right, if you're making laws, if you're making rules, if you're making you know, it can't be influenced by your emotions. It can't be biased. It has to be objective and purely logical, right? It has to be fair. You know, that's why Libra is all about fairness and all about, okay, well, you didn't, you know, and they weigh everything. Is this the right course of action? You know, but the problem is, if you don't establish a good harmony between this dynamic, is that the law can become tyrannical. right? The law can punish people out of pure emotion, you know, and that's why, you know, like a really good example of the law being the law and how it's supposed to be is like freedom of speech, or like the Constitution, right? The government doesn't overstep its boundaries, right? We have freedom of speech because we need people to freely speak to one another. Just, you know, we probably hate it when other people talk because we don't like what they're saying, but they have the freedom to speak it because it's fair, you know, it's objective. Because as soon as we start denying people free speech, as soon as we start inflicting violence on innocent people, on free individuals, we tyrannical, right? We become unfair. We become a government that results to violence whenever we can't come to a decision, whenever we can't come to an agreement. And when that happens, we lose rationality. We lose the ability to find the objective answer, to find the truth, right? And this is kind of the same idea where libertarians are very not violent, but basically they can always oppose their government whenever their government steps too far, right? Because Aries is kind of that defending yourself and fighting for your individuality and standing up to the government when the government oversteps itself. So as I said before, to kind of bring out the truth, you need to have civil, rational discussions, right? You can't just resort to violence, but at the same time, you can resort to violence as soon as someone inflicts violence when they shouldn't be, right? When they resort to violence instead of taking the rational approach. But you can't fight violence by being rational. Sometimes you have to fight violence with violence, and that's where Aries kind of steps in and helps balance the Libra energy. Right, so the next one is rudeness and honesty versus diplomacy and falsehood. Aries is very blunt. It's a very blunt sign. If they're very direct, right? They're very to the point. They say things how they are. They're very honest, but it's very rude and it's very unfitting, right? Aries people they're very individualistic, as I said. So they kind of stand out. They're standoffish. They're almost kind of loners in a way because they don't know how to harmonize with everybody else, except Libra, which is all about relationships and establishing a balance. Libra is very diplomatic, right? Instead of saying exactly how they feel to the point that it offends people, because the truth hurts, it does, right? When you are purely honest about something, it damages relationships, right? You kind of have to lie, you know? All relationships and all of society are kind of built off of lies. We all wear masks. We all hide our true selves, right? Under this kind of Libran manipulation kind of veil, this kind of rational, logical veil, right? We don't express our true emotions. We kind of hide them and we kind of maintain this cold, logical, and we say things in a very pleasant, very diplomatic way so that we can all, because if we were all purely honest with each other and we hurt each other's feelings, society cannot function, right? And if society doesn't function, then the Aries individual falls, because when you think about it, society is actually the best thing for an individual. An individual needs a group of people in harmony. Next is war and violence versus peace and pacifism. What this means is that Aries is conflict. You know, conflict is always going to be here. When there's a conflict, it needs to take place. But you don't want it to escalate too high where you're starting wars and killing people, right? But you do need to have the energy to confront people and to resolve things, right? That's the importance of Aries. Libra has the ability to take the conflict and make sure that it's resolved peacefully. The problem is with Libra is it can be too peaceful. It can be too passive, right? So Libras are almost pacifists. They're justice people, right? They just want harmony, almost to the point of avoiding conflict, because this is where it's unbalanced. You're too Libran. So it gets to the point where you're so passive and you're avoiding confrontation so much that a conflict will arise, and the conflict will be very, very bad because the conflict didn't resolve. The next one is raw passion and aesthetics and beauty. So as I said before, Aries is kind of like that raw passion and emotion, but it's almost so raw and it's just so individualistic that it's hard to relate it to other people. Right? It's not beautiful, it's unpleasant. And so Libra is this very aesthetically pleasing sign because it's ruled by Venus, right? It's very harmonizing. So it knows how to take emotions and to make them beautiful. And this is like, so an Aries Libra opposition is very artistic, right? There's a great potential for making beautiful works of art, design, because you need the emotion and feeling, but then you need to make it look beautiful. Right, and you need both of these signs because Libra does not have the passion to begin with. So anyway, so that's pretty much it for the Aries Libra opposition. I hope I felt like I talked in circles a lot. I'm sorry about that, but just wanted to make sure I got all of it. But it's a really fascinating opposition. As I said, it represents individuality, liberty, and freedom, right? That's what these signs purely represent. It represents harmonizing of individuals and making sure that everybody expresses their full individuality while also making sure to harmonize with other people's individuality. And that's what freedom is. That is what a free society is. End this video with one last thing. If you've heard of Mel Robbins, she's a very fascinating speaker. She's super awesome. I really like about her is I saw one interview with her and she talked about this 5-second rule idea where basically if you want to take an action, you know what you have to do, just go and take it. And it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you take the action. So you're not just sitting there like a Libra. So basically, and it's funny because I looked at her chart and she is the sun in Libra. So she knows what it feels like to kind of stand around and not make a decision because she just thinks and thinks and thinks and then she gets paralyzed and she can't make that decision. But she also has that Mars in Aries, right? Which creates this opposition. So she's created the 5-second rule, which basically is a perfect balance of this Aries Libra opposition. Yeah, thank you for watching this video and stay tuned for my Taurus Scorpio opposition video. See ya.